topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Hi, this is Shelby Wagner, host of Learning to Dance in the Rain. And thank you for tuning in to my live show today. I'm quite excited about it. I'll get to that in a minute. We talk about, my experts and I talk about some of our past experiences and how we dealt with them and bounced back with resilience. We tell you about these stories or share these stories to help you if you're going through a similar one at that particular moment. Then we hope they'll be very helpful. And today's show, the show is about overcoming suffering, I believe, and learning to manage our emotions and prevent maybe suicide. Kimberley Tocco she lost her 13-year-old son to suicide. He died in her arms. And since that time, she's navigated the many ups and downs of these sledgehammers, finding a way to choose life, even in moments of suffering. She's now a #1 bookseller, the country's first metaphysical real estate advisor, international speaker, and spiritual psychologist. Kimberly's become the testimony that you can push through and find magic in life once again. With that, Kimberly, would you come on out here on stage? Glad to meet you. We've been talking for a while here, but very, very interesting subject. So I really want to turn the mic over to you and you tell us about yourself more.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you for inviting me on the show. And yes, life truly is a series of overcoming, right? We overcome these challenges. Pain is inevitable in this life, but it's the suffering that's the choice. And, it's not that we can avoid suffering, but we can find a way to transmute that. And like you mentioned, 13 years ago now, 2011, I have 4 sons, and my second born, Jason, 13 years old, 6'1", could pitch at 80 miles an hour, straight A student, most popular kid in school. But that morning he was off and we got into an argument over breakfast, and he walked upstairs and literally shot himself then and there. And, a lot of questions come up with that. Obviously, why, especially when there's no signs. The other questions that come up was, how did he have access to a gun? There's the stigma of suicide that follows that is so different than any other type of death, especially as a parent. Mm-hmm. And when something like this happens, when you lose a child, obviously it's the worst thing imaginable. But the suicide, the stigma of it, people wouldn't let their kids come over anymore. They would whisper what really happened. The trolls that we would get, pictures sent to us with a target on our son's head. Suicide was really, really different. And it spiraled me down even deeper and deeper and deeper into depression and wanting to die myself. And I remember sitting there 2 years later. I had 3 other children, 2 of which are special needs. And, that life had become a routine of just barely making it through the day, holding on long enough to be that mom and help the kids. And husband would come home from shift, but I would always be there with that glass of wine, the second glass, the third glass, every single evening. And January 2013, I remember looking up and taking assessment and saying, Kim, what are you doing? What are you doing? Wasting every last breath that Jason would have taken on this planet, sitting here drinking wine and sitting in your suffering. And I looked over at my twins, who are now 5, and they were playing. They had found a way to be resilient. And his brother, who was only 12 months older, maybe not doing as best as he could, but he was doing better than me. But it was when I looked at my husband, gray, pale, but he was looking at me like I was going to break. And I just said, enough. There has to be a way to transmute this kind of pain. There has to be a way not to wake up feeling like the whole entire world is crushing my chest. And it came through finding a purpose. That was the first thing. And this is what led me to becoming a metaphysical real estate professional. At that time, we had both a bankruptcy and a short sale because of everything we had been through. And I'd heard about an extenuating circumstance loan. And working with this loan officer for 2 months, we were qualified, but we couldn't find an agent to help us. There wasn't one real estate agent who was able to walk that line with us because, number one, they were fearful of how to handle the emotional level of a family that had been through this. Number two, they had never seen an extenuating circumstance loan close. So they were like, even if we take you down that, when we get to the last week, it won't close. They'll find something wrong. They'll find a way. We've never been able to make it happen. And then you'll be even more depressed. So March 22nd was when my son passed. March that month, 2 years later, I scraped up my tax return money, my change jar, and I put myself through real estate school in 18 days. And 45 days later, this makes me so emotional. We closed on a home using a grant, using my commission, and seeing my children run around in a home that was ours. It needed work. It needed work, but it was ours. And when I handed those keys to my husband, he had his feet again. And I, for the first time, felt joy. I had done something. I had served. I had made a difference. I had put ourselves into a foundation in which we could heal in. And from that moment on, 11 years ago till now, I have given back over $350,000 of my own commission to help families who have been through hardship start a new chapter, becoming a spiritual psychologist, telling the world about suicide because we have over 5,000 people a day attempt suicide in this country.
Wow. Wow. And I'm overwhelmed. I knew it was pretty bad, but 5,000. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And has that gotten even worse in the more recent years with
Yes.
the scams and things that are going on?
When COVID first started, it was about 3,000, and now it's over 5,000 a day. And obviously, the statistics, the ages between 10 and 24, suicide is the second leading cause of death. And women, believe it or not, between the ages 45 and 55, their suicidal idolization and completion raises 54%. Between the ages of 45 and 55, because of hormonal changes, because of different things happening in our life. And that also became, my son showed no signs. He didn't have any mental illnesses. What is happening? Why is this happening? We see it all the time. Twitch, I think, was his nickname, the DJ for Ellen DeGeneres, Anthony Bourdain, Robin Williams, just seeming like they have everything going for them, but they take their life. So through deep metaphysical studies, I am a certified metaphysician. I did go to Delphi Metaphysical University. I needed answers. And science came out in 2017. Science has been able to prove that we carry at least 14 generations of trauma energy within the DNA. And if that trauma energy is stuck within the DNA and it gets triggered, not because of a mental illness, this is one of the fears. I don't want to talk about not being here because everyone will think I'm crazy. It's actually proven to be trapped trauma energy that can be triggered and start sending you down that spiral. So what do? We have to find a way to transmute it. If we can carry trauma energy, we can also transmute it and carry that forward. So it minuses out that trauma energy that we carry within the cells by transmuting it. And that became my new modality that I just launched last week. It's called Overcome Suffering. You can find it at overcomesuffering.com. It took me 2 years to make it. It has 2 custom meditations, 3 videos, and a workbook to help you overcome suffering and plant a seed that will, in future, when you find yourself thinking these thoughts, when you find yourself not worthy, you will remember not only the seed that was planted, not only the work that you did with this module, but you can go back to it and listen to it again in those moments. Because one thing I know for sure, suicide is free will staring back at you and asking you to choose. And if in that moment you are in your darkest hour, you're not going to be like, oh, I'm going to tap my fate. That's not going to happen when you're sitting there ready to make that choice. What is going to happen is a seed that was planted from something you heard before. All those things start rushing up and you will remember the ripple effect of your choice that is taught in this module. So yeah, I'm very, very proud of that.
Mhm. What I don't remember. I think metaphysical was a new term for me when I saw, and especially put it with real estate. And
Yes.
I'm trying to. I looked up metaphysical.
Yes.
Very complicated definition.
A very, very simple way to remember it is an expert in energy. I have learned how to feel energy, how to read energy, how to see energy. So when I'm talking about a metaphysical real estate agent, not only was I able to give back to people, obviously, and help them become homeowners, but I discovered I had a real gift when it came to feeling the energy of a home, matching the energy of a home, and also some psychic gifts when it came to the number that home was going to get, whether I was a listing agent or a buying agent. And for the last 2 years, even though it's a seller market, 100% of my buyers have walked away from the closing table with instant equity, anywhere from $15,000 to $190,000 that I was able to identify and help my buyers. And I have an 86% rate over 11 years of breaking the top dollar for my listings sold in those neighborhoods. And it's because I know the energy. I know what to do. I have my own unique style of house clearing. It's not saging. It's not an old school way. It is infusing with energy. So that is the difference. I work with energy. I don't work with voodoo dolls or any of those things. This is a legitimate energy, like Stephen Hawkins teaches, how to transmute and raise the vibration and frequency of your very cell structure and that of a home.
Wow.
Took a long time to learn, but here I am.
That's my best word today, I guess. Wow. Can you tell me a little bit more about this overcoming course?
Suffering. Yes.
Who's it for, and how they can find out or get
Yes.
about it?
So I have obviously several endeavors that I have done. If you go to kimt360.com, you'll see everything that I do: fit body, fit mind, fit soul, fit foundation. But it came about after my first book, Overcome Memoirs of A Suicide. This was launched in 2020. This was my #1 bestseller. And the book was written in a way to it actually takes journal entries from the first year after losing my son and how nuts and crazy I was at those times. And I go back and I explain how I made it through. And then this one just launched last year. It is the very metaphysical journey of discovering, who you are, who I am, Tenacious Angels. And that the 4 or 5 years studying metaphysics and having teachers, how was I going to be able to reach more and more people to make the choice of life, or again, suffering? So some of us wake up still living in yesterday's story. Some of us wake up in bed and we're like, oh God, why did I make that choice? What have I done? Why did I eat that cake? We tend to beat ourselves up. And the greatest love affair you can have is with the person in the mirror. And this particular module, Overcome Suffering, not only brings you back to a place where you identify how magnificent you are, but a place that will allow you to really feel the heartbeat that beats for you and that you matter. So anywhere from hesitation and non-belief and who you need to be and what you need to do in your purpose, to all the way to, I don't want to be here anymore. That's what this module is for. The first meditation, the videos are very brief, 10 to 12 minutes. First meditation is about 13 minutes, and the final one is a 30-minute. But you will find that you will go through them like that. And the last one, the final one, was actually recorded by the Creek on ancient Cherokee ground in Delphi Metaphysical University. So it's a very special frequency, a lot of natural birds in the background. And yeah, I guarantee my work. So
you guarantee it?
Yes, I guarantee my work. So if you don't feel a shift, if you don't feel something that comes from the actual doing the whole course and the workbook, then I give you a free 1-hour session. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Is there some way that we can guess that somebody might be?
Oh, I see. So what are the signs that you look for in other people, right? Well, like we discussed and discovered, most of the time there isn't any signs. And of course, there are the very obvious ones, people struggling, they're suffering, they're like, I don't want to be here anymore. Those are the easy ones. But let me tell you something, the ones who are very serious, they don't tell you. They don't tell you. So you need to ask. That's the problem. Silence is suicide's best friend. And too many people wait for the sign. And even with their children, they oh God, I can't, I'm not going to discuss that with my even 8-year-old. These things need to be discussed. You need to sit down and you need to be like, hey, I just heard a story today. And this boy that I heard the story about is a little older than you, but I want you to know, I need you to come to me when you're feeling such and such a way. You're the parent, but the other thing is you need to share your ugly with your children. Again, too many of us push we got to tell our children how good we were and how perfect we were. And we don't want them to see this bad side of us because we don't want them to learn that. You make them feel like they have to meet such a high expectation. Show them your imperfection. Show them your ugly. Tell them true stories about your struggles. They need to hear this. And then most importantly, ask them for their advice. How do you want me to talk to you? How do you want me to approach you with things like this? If I'm concerned, if I'm uneasy, how do I talk to you, my child? And give them the opportunity to step up and be mature. Because believe it or not, they want that opportunity. Kids can handle a lot more than we're giving them credit for.
So how do you want me to talk to? Is that the question? Talk to me, or how to you?
Yeah, if you're thinking of like, okay, who do I give this module to, or who do I buy this book for? If you've got a friend and you haven't, just say, hey, I know you've never brought it up, but I want to talk to you. Have you ever thought about leaving this world? I need to have that discussion. 93% of people have thought about leaving this world. Very few have not. And this is from my own questioning over the last, 11 years when I got really serious about it. 93%.
93%.
So, and the only time they admit it, when I get to the end of, say, a group or a speech. I have people raise their hand when they finally feel comfortable that they can raise their hand because they heard my story. They're like, yeah, I have too. So we have to ask. We have to make them comfortable. Otherwise, obviously if they're showing signs, it's different, but otherwise we won't know. We won't know. So ask, have that conversation. And I would highly recommend this book if you've had anyone lose someone to suicide, a parent to suicide. This walks you through the really deep, ugly gutter of the ugly side of suicide. No, that's a third book coming. But this one helps parents.
Memoirs of a Suicide.
Yeah, that will help someone who has lost through suicide. This will help with someone who's trying to identify why they make the choices they do, and if they're questioning, spirituality or religion. This will really help you. It's a very metaphysical view, and then there's a beautiful story of, I like to say imagination, but it's a metaphysical story at the end to kind of bring you up and realize that curiosity and imagination are divinity. It's a gift. And that's how we get ourselves out of bad places. So we imagine ourselves in a better place, right? And then, that brief picture you showed, I do have a third ebook coming out. Very controversial. My coach, who has brought me to, I was in a low place a couple of years ago, Stormy Wellington. She is one of the world's most successful network marketers, most powerful woman speaker in the world. And it is the true story of how a Black woman breathed life back into a broken white woman. And it's so relevant for what's going on today. And again, does touch on the dark side of things and success and how, COVID shut us down and how we're able to find ourselves again. And for me, this book highlights community and finding that person you can really bond with. And hey, I'm continuing on my path to eradicate suicide, not giving up.
Good. That's good to know. I think you've answered most of my questions already. I'm looking at more here. What are some things? Well, let's talk about your son. What memories, what did he like to do?
So Jason, his nickname was the Jester. He was a joker. That was one of the things about Jason, is he was so funny. He was so funny. And from the time he was 2 years old, I started playing baseball with him. And literally, not a joke, at 13 years old, he was 6'1" and he could pitch at 80 miles an hour. Now, not always accurately though. Sometimes he'd hit the kid, and it was hilarious because even at 11, he was almost 6 foot tall at 11 years old. And he'd come walking out on the mound, and parents would be like, "Where's that child's birth certificate?" And the little kids would be like, "Oh my God," And he was so sweet. He was so sweet. The other beautiful side to Jason is he hated bullies. He hated bullies because, again, he had a special needs older brother and younger brother. And his older brother would get made fun of. They were in the same grade together. So every once in a while, I'd get a call from the principal's office and be like, "Yep, got Jason in here." And I'm like, "He defended someone again, didn't he?" And the principal would say, "Yeah." And we'd go in there and she'd be smiling. She's like, "I got to suspend him for a day, but he took care of that bully all right." So, and nothing drastic. He would just pick them up and be like, "You don't want to deal with me. You leave this kid alone," So kind of that became my beacon, right? Jason was so magical and full of joy. And that's the part that, when you lose a child, you lose that huge piece of you and you feel like you can never replace it. But I am able to replace it because energy is everything and everything is energy. It does not dissipate. The fleshy body disappeared, but Jason, his soul, his energy is right here. And I weave it into everything I do. And that's why I look for joy and how to find joy and magic.
What about your other children?
Yes.
How do they cope with this?
Yeah, and that was a huge concern, and I found out that children are resilient. So his older brother and the twins, the youngest twin has autism, so he didn't remember much of Jason, so they were almost 4 years old when this happened. But little Joey, who was almost 4 at the time, typical, he actually saw me. He got away from his older brother and saw me working on Jason while I was waiting for the ambulance to get there. You know, I continued to try to keep him alive, obviously. So he has a very distinct memory, flashes of it, right? But the beautiful part about this is, you know, the older boy who has bipolar is both bipolar. And then the one boy who saw it, and then the autistic boy, they've done beautifully. And they've done beautifully because we've kept the lines of communication open. And my oldest boy is 28. He works with me in real estate now. He's almost completely off meds. He's never done drugs, never touched alcohol. The twins are 17 now. The one boy who saw him did have some anxiety issues, but we were able to talk through it. He's, again, never drank, never touched drugs. Once in a while, he'll go to a friend's house. He's always home by 11. He's a wrestler, straight A student. And even my autistic boy, he's mainstreamed. Makes me a little emotional. They never thought he'd even talk or get out of diapers. He's mainstreamed and doing really well in the same grade as his twin. And, you know, and our marriage, 23 years we've been together, and so many times it's been rocky, let me tell you. And that's another thing I offer is couples counseling, but we are still together, still faithful, and never wavered. I mean, we did question, you know, should I still be in this marriage? But we stuck together and we made it through. So I'm so lucky. I'm so fortunate. I have so much gratitude to have built a success, have kept my marriage together, and to see my children balanced and doing well. I thank God every day, but I also say it's because of an understanding of who I am. Because trust me, I was a mess, and I still can be on a daily occasion. But it took a long time to really recognize, you know, I went through the victim and the martyr and the hero and, you know, the pity parties and over and over and over again until I figured out how to step outside myself, recognize with personal radical responsibility that I need to make other choices and move forward with the right choice.
Would you say that your course on overcoming suffering is not only helpful to a parent or a friend who knows that their other, you know, had committed suicide? Sorry, I'm really tongue-tied today. But where was I going with this? Would that also be helpful for keeping a marriage together after such an event as this?
Yes, what I would recommend for couples on this. Now, this is very spiritual. So, you know, you kind of have to, I do speak about God. I don't say Yeshua or angels or anything, but I say God, you know, a higher self, a God self. So it's very spiritual. So the modality should be done alone. So if you're in a couple, you each do your own modality. It can be done, you can do it in 2 days, because the meditation you need to do either at night or in the morning, but you do need to let a day pass between the next section. So it can be done in 2 days, and then meet back up and compare notes on your workbook. Print up that workbook instead of just, you know, looking at it. Print up that workbook, compare notes, and talk to each other. Oh, why did you make that choice? If you do it alone and you don't have anyone else with you, then you're really free to just be exactly and answer exactly who you are, right? And that's the thing. You cannot be afraid of what comes up, the authentic pieces that comes up, and trickster energy, that's what I like to call it. It will surface. And there is a code, a coupon that gives everyone who goes through the module 25% off any of my sessions. I do energy healing sessions. I do spiritual guidance sessions, past life regressions, but they will most likely need a session or two with me. But even when you do a session or two with me, my goal is to make it so you no longer have to go to someone like me, where you can start to build and understand what you need. Because one of the things that I didn't like when I was suffering was having to keep going to therapy every week. Like, can't you just give me some answers so I can start living a life? I don't want to come to therapy every week. I don't want to take medications every week. And by the way, I'm 100% medication free. So there are ways to reach this level and not have to rely on a weekly expensive medication or therapist. And that's what this module does. It plants the seed and gives you tools.
I think you're doing wonderful work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, very, very impressed, and wish you a lot of success in it, even in the future. What was this you had written to me about the great American speak?
Oh, yes. So 10x stages. It is
Oh,
10x stages.
Okay.
So, right, and this is kind of where my third book takes off. 2022 was the very first audition. October 2022 was the very first audition for the Great American Speak Off. This is the third book coming out. And, I had lost so much momentum with COVID. I had already been speaking, and then COVID hit, and I had to shut everything down. And I'm like, oh, a Speak Off, I can get back into it. We're starting to get back into it. And I did win a golden ticket to got to the 120 who were going to speak in front of 14,000 people at GrowthCon, but I didn't make it past in December of 2022. But one of the judges was Stormy Wellington. That's where I got here for the first time. And because I had promised my family, this is it, I'm going to give up if I don't make it. Don't worry, guys, because I've been pursuing this dream for so long, and that's where this book takes off. Because I got on the verge of suicide again. And like, what do? I didn't even make it. And this woman, I don't want to spoil the book, but she knows suffering. She hasn't lost a child, but she knows suffering like no one else I'd ever met. And I knew that if she knew it as deeply as I could be her level of success. I just needed to listen to what her systems and processes were for her soul. So I had a lot of answers, right? But I still was finding myself back in that spot. And it came through her community. It came through her teachings that I was able to refine everything. And to prove it, I auditioned again and again, still wasn't making it onto the Great American Speak Off again. But in June, just a couple months ago, I auditioned again. I have a golden ticket again, and I will be at the semifinals in January. And this time, damn it, I made it to the finals.
Well, I wish you well. That's something I would like to do, but I said I guess I'm just making some.
I've been at it for a long time, though.
Yeah, it's a long time to do it.
Yes.
I don't think I want to do that much.
Yeah.
Okay, so did you say this third book is already been launched?
It'll be an ebook. They can pre-order it. They can pre-order it at blackwomanwhitewoman.com and eyeofthestormbook.com. Sorry, I didn't have it quite memorized yet. So eyeofthestormbook.com and blackwomanwhitewoman.com. This really is going to break a lot of barriers when it comes to color and people being able to focus on energy instead of lifestyle and color and things like that. So I'm excited. It should be done in about a week. Yeah. So, but they can pre-order right now. Yeah.
In about a week. Okay.
Yeah. I'm just finishing up the end, but I do a lot of things, so I get distracted.
When I saw your one sheet and talking about the sledgehammers, I've been trying to figure out a good way to say dealing with difficult issues for the purpose of my show. And I thought, I've come up with difficult times, I've come up with tough times, and you came up with sledgehammers, and I thought, wow, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, exactly. Because not only does the sledgehammer break you, but it pushes you in a different direction depending on which way it hit you. So
but I was very happy to see that suffering is a choice, and
it is.
You can move. Is that the same as moving forward? Isn't it?
I like to say transmute because moving forward, we like to think moving forward, but really we're in the now moment. We
Mm-hmm.
can't think about what's in the rearview mirror and what's behind us. And,
Mm-hmm.
we have an idea of what we want in the front of us, but this is where we are. So if this is where we are in this now moment, we need to transmute, change it, transmute it into something else. So for instance, let's say you want to speak on the TEDx speaking stage and you see yourself there and everything else, but you're sitting here and you're like, well, I'm not ready for that. That thought of I'm not ready. Yes, I'm ready. As a matter of fact, I'm so ready that I'm pulling up right now in this here moment a video on getting on TEDx stages because I am ready. See, you're transmuting that energy instead of, oh, I'm not ready and I can't do it and I can't do this. Yes, I am. Obey. Every cell in my body, obey. Yes, I am. I am ready for this. And that's all it takes. You have to convince yourself, brainwash yourself, if that's what it takes, in the now moment, in order to move forward. Otherwise, you're stuck in that stagnancy. Yeah.
And another thing I liked was that statement, it's not what you go through, it's how you come through it.
Yeah, that was really interesting. So I had, like I said, we were able to buy a house, right? I went through the only intention of me going through real estate school so I could get my family into this house, but seeing what difference it made for my family, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this, right? So I remember sitting at the computer. I'm like, okay, I can borrow business clothes from my sister-in-law. Because really, we've been living off one income. We were barely making it. And I'm like, but what experience do I have? A girl with a GED. And I said, my tenacity. I'm still here. And it's not what I went through. It's how I'm going through it. And thus Tenacious T, Tenacious Real Estate, Tenacious Thought Podcast, Tenacious Angels of 501c3, Tenacious Reset Your Soul. All of these things became my brand because of my tenacity. Yeah.
So how do you get your clients in for the real estate? Are they word of mouth?
Yes. I, of course, in the first, I'm going to say 3 years, I did all the things, the open houses, the cold calls, and but I was able to not only build up a clientele, but I did it differently. I couldn't compete with postcards and this and that, but I was really good at storytelling. So why not do a visual storytelling with every house has a tale? So when I'd listed, I'd do this really cool videos that nobody else was doing and posting it on social media. And that's how I was able to build up a business that's 100% either by social media or word of mouth. And I do anywhere from 7 million to 15 million in sales a year. So yeah.
I was looking at your website and I saw the way you presented the houses. And oh boy, yeah. It's a doing again to see it looking at your website. What is the website? Kimberley.com?
You can go to kimt360.com. I have several websites, but that's like the connection hub. Tenacious Real Estate, you can go there, or adayWithKimberley.com, all of those. But I have a YouTube, but if you go to kimt360, you can go on my YouTube, and I have I'm an artist too, and I do voiceovers for books. So you'll see different videos, some of the love stories and chapters that I've written. There's one even on Mother Mary in there. And then there's listing videos. There's videos from my podcast. It's just, I studied. I went onto YouTube. I couldn't afford a videographer. I couldn't afford the postcards that most real estate agents were doing. So I taught myself. And you can see it when you go back to the early videos. You're like, oh, that's okay.
And with me, when I started on YouTube, they had the videos that I did, 4 years ago, or when I launched my first book, and I look at those, and then I see the ones that of the show that are out there, and I think, well, I guess I have. I wish I could take some of those off of there.
I like keeping them on there though, because it does show authenticism, right? When you're talking about where you started, it's fun to go back and look at, well, I wonder what they were like 10 years ago or what have you. It shows so much growth. And it's also like keeping a diary. You go back and you look in your diary from years and years ago, and you're like, wow, I am totally different person. And that's good to see. We have to evolve. We have to pivot. We have to grow.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was a statement. It eludes me at the moment, but about growth. People that don't grow, let's see, you're not really living unless you're growing, right? I mean,
yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can't remember it either.
They go hand in hand.
Yeah. Oh, and then there's the other one. People, they said people die at 35, but they're married at 70. There's another one like that. You know, they die at 35, meaning, you know, they think life is over. They don't keep pursuing dreams, but they don't get buried till 70, right? So that's the other thing. I think a lot of us, we stop achieving, we stop trying, we stop pursuing, thinking that, you know, life is, I'm 52 and I need another 50 years to do what I'm doing. I don't know about you, but I can't stop yet.
I have people saying, why? Yeah, why are you doing this? You're supposed to be retired.
Yeah, and you're doing what you love. Why is that not retirement, right?
I said to my sister just a week or so ago, well, what would I do if I didn't do the writing, or if I don't do? What would I do? I did for a little bit the business of playing cards, you know, in the afternoon. And I like to play cards.
I can't do that.
When you do it twice a week or every week for several weeks, it gets a little bit old.
Right. We have to evolve. We have to do something different.
I wondered at one time when my aunt was in her 70s in Arkansas, and she was still teaching. And I thought, boy, more power to her.
Right. Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. That's patient.
Yeah. And I think there was a man that was teaching in the school district that I first taught in, and he had taught 50 years.
Wow.
English, I think it was. And I thought, oh my goodness, that was back when I was only 40 or 50.
And that is patience. Yeah.
So, okay, well, is there any thing else that you want to tell us? We're just about at the end of
just, you know, thank you so much for having me on. Obviously,
so
I'm very, very passionate. I want to remind people that your choices have a ripple effect. It is felt. And this module, overcomesuffering.com, this module will help you understand how it's felt. Like when people say we're all one, we're all connected, this really will give you not only a visual presentation of it, but you'll be able to understand it mentally and physically. So you matter. You matter. Choose life. Yeah.
And is that this course $27?
$27. Yeah, it's so for Blue Moon, because that's when I launched it. $27, and I'll probably run that at least through the next month, maybe even the full year, because this is my God work, right? So basically, it's just covers admin fees and that sort of thing. So,
and is that how do you go to Overcome Suffering?
Overcomesuffering.com. And it will be added to my KimT360.com, because again, we just launched it last week. And it has instructions and it has videos, and you know, again, a warning sign will come up though. It is heavy on the discussion of suicide and depression, and making sure you understand your choice.
Very good. Well, I really thank you a lot for agreeing to come and be with us. It's very interesting. I've enjoyed it very much. And I want to thank the audience for joining us today, and hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. Maybe it will help us in the future if with friends or family that we might, Okay, yeah, I can talk about this now a little bit more than I would have before. The show will go into, it was recorded or is being recorded and will be available on 100 different podcast stations. So look for us on there and on my YouTube channel at Shelby Wagner and maybe even at Kim's YouTube channel. I don't know. But anyway, thank you very much for coming in. I'll see you next Tuesday. The subject will be fear and handling and how to manage your fear and then what the Bible says about it for us with the Pastor Carl Litchfield. Bye now. We'll see you next time.